Another way we can show that why there is a one-to-one relationship between consumption and income is through marginal measures. So marginal propensity to consume, MPC, and marginal propensity to save. Although they sound very similar to the average measures that we talked about in the previous video, they mean two entirely different things. So remember the word marginal. We said that the word marginal means additional in economics. So in these marginal cases, we care a little bit more about the additional consumption that we have when we change our income. We care about the additional savings that we have when we change our income. Because we're talking about additional amounts, we also have the calculations that are going to be a little bit different as well. So for marginal propensity to consume, this is the change in consumption given a change in income. It's going to be delta C divided by delta Y. So these triangles right here, this is just going to be the Greek symbol for delta, and this just means change in economics or in mathematics. It just tells us that we're going to be taking some type of difference. So change in consumption divided by the change in income. Marginal propensity to save, on the other hand, is the change in savings given a change in income. Change in S divided by change in Y. So here, we actually need to do a little bit more mathematics in order to get these marginal measures. Once again, because Y equals C plus S, MPC plus MPS has to equal to 1. So here, do not confuse the average and the marginal measures. Keep the marginal measures to themselves. The sum of both of these will equal to 1. And then keep the average measures to themselves as well. The sum of those two will equal to 1 as well. Do not combine and mix the average and marginal measures because you will get a wrong answer. They mean two entirely different things for us. So here with the marginal measures, when we change income, we want to see exactly out of that additional income, how much are you going to consume and how much are you going to save? How much additional are you going to consume? How much additional are you going to save? And one way to do this is, once again, build up a bit of an example with a table right here. I do need to provide you a little bit more information anytime you are asked a marginal sort of question. So here we have 3 rows. We have income, consumption, and savings, and we have numbers for each. So if your income is equal to 5,000, you're going to consume 47.50 out of that, and 250, you're going to save 250. So here, C plus S still has to equal to Y. So the question that I can ask is, what is MPC and MPS when income increases from 5,000 to 5,200 and 5,200 to 5,400? So with the marginal measures, I actually have to give you a starting point and then an ending point. So where's your initial point and then where are you going to? So notice how the wording from this question differs from the average measure. So the average measures, all I really need to give you are 2 numbers and you're good to go. But here, I need to give you where you're starting from and then where you're ending. And we'll do this 2 times. So here, first of all, let's go ahead and take a look at 5,000 to 5,200. So here, we're increasing your income from the first row to the second row from 5,000 to 5,200, and we want to find MPC and MPS. So marginal propensity to consume, remember, the equation is change in C divided by change in Y. So here, once again, the Greek symbol for delta, you might have seen it on a few of the sororities or fraternities on campus. Here, just a Greek symbol. Change in C divided by change in Y. So here with this, the easiest way is to go ahead and start off by finding the income, the change in income. So how much did our income change by? We went from $5,000 of income to $5,200 of income. So the change in income is exactly that difference. We can go say 5,200 minus 5,000. So here, changes just tell us that we're going to be taking some type of difference. And typically, we put the ending value first. So here, we end at 5,200. We started at 5,000. So ending value minus initial value. We just want to stay consistent with these differences right here. Your number should always be a positive number with the MPC and MPSs. So something to be aware about that. Next, our change in consumption. From the first row to the second row, our consumption went from 4,750 to 4,900. So here, the ending value, 4,900, minus the initial value, 4,750. And then you find out the change in consumption there. So just the difference as we go from row 1 to row 2. Simplify this down, we have 150 over 200. And this will give us 0.75. So what does a 0.75 tell us? It just tells us that as your income increases from 5,000 to 5,200, you're going to consume an additional 0.75 of that income. So here, 0.75, for every additional dollar that you receive in income, you're going to consume 75% of that. Next, we can go ahead and do MPS. Well, you can do the very easy thing and say, hey, I know MPC is 0.275, so MPS has to equal to 0.25 because the sum of these two have to equal to 1. Let's go ahead and do it long ways just for practice. Change in S divided by change in Y. You're going to notice that the change in Y is exactly the same. We went from 5,000 to 5,200. So here, 5,200 minus 5,000. Nothing new with that. Change in savings, we take a look at the third column now, 250 to 300. So the difference is 50. 300 minus 250. And here we get 50 over 200. 0.25. So once again, interpretation just tells us that for every additional dollar in income that you receive or gain, you're going to save 25% of that. So here, MPC plus MPS, they still have to equal to 1. So do you think things are going to change with these two numbers with our second question as we change our income from 5,200 to 5,400? Remember that APC and APS changed as our income increases or as our income changed. But what is going to happen with MPC and MPS? Let's go ahead and mathematically take a look at this. So we go from 5,200 to 5,400 now. Once again, find MPC and then MPS. For MPC, once again, we'll use a change in C over change in Y. Now we're focusing in on the second row to the third row. So here, 5,200 to 5,400. So that's going to go in our denominator. 5,400 minus 5,200. And our consumption changes from 4,900 to 5,050. So here, focus in on row 2 to row 3, no longer row 1 to row 2. Remember, I have to specify where you're starting from and where you're ending up. With this, we have 50/50 minus 4,900. And this will give us 150 over 200, which we already know from before is 0.75. So here, we're noticing that, hey, these calculations are exactly identical to one another. Is it going to hold true for savings for MPS? Well, yes. So here, once again, just doing a little bit of longhand, change in S over change in Y. The denominator always stays the same, 5,400 minus 5,200. And then savings, we went from 300 to 350. 350 minus 300. So 50 over 200, which will give us 0.25. So once again, we notice that, hey, this calculation is the same exact one from before, from the first problem. So what do we notice about this? We notice that these marginal measures, they are never going to change when we have a set of numbers right here. So essentially, MPC and MPS remain constant. Remain constant. So compared to before with the average measures, remember the average propensity to consume, average propensity to save, all changed as income changed. But here we notice that MPC and MPS, they remain exactly the same. They have the same exact ratio no matter what. So here, it doesn't really matter if we go from row 1 to row 2 to row 3, or row 1 to row 3. It doesn't really matter because these MPC and MPS calculations are going to remain constant. They do not change at all. So here, once again, these MPC is exactly the slope of our actual consumption line if we wanted to get a little bit more into that. But for us in this sort of case right here, we notice that for every additional dollar that we gain, we're going to consume 75% of that, and we're going to save 25% of that. So the interpretation here is a little bit more important than the average sort of cases, because once again, it hits on the idea that there is actually not a one-to-one relationship between income and consumption, just a little bit better. So here, if we want the interpretation, remember that the average measure just tells us that on average, based on our income, we're going to consume this percentage and save this percentage. But here, we care a little bit about the changes. So MPC, the MPS, the additional changes that sort of accrue to us, it tells us that for every additional dollar, additional $1, you gain an income. You gain an income. You will consume. You will consume the MPC, which is 0.75, and save MPS, in this case 0.25. So 0.2, Let me write this a little better, 0.25. So here, for every additional $1 you gain in income, you will consume an additional 75%, and you will save an additional 25% in this sort of case. So here, remember that marginal, keep those sort of concepts with themselves and keep the average measures to themselves as well. One final thing that we can talk about in terms of these marginal measures is these equations right here. So these equations are very important for us because we can manipulate them just a little bit in order to solve for one particular unknown, and we will be doing this quite a bit throughout the rest of the semester. So one final question as we wrap up this marginal section right here is, suppose that I tell you that your income increases by $100. So if income increases by $100, how much does consumption and savings change? How much does consumption and savings change? So here, in order to solve this out, we can simply go ahead and use, once again, these formulas right here, just for a long way since we're just starting us off, but you're gonna see the methodology very, very quickly as you get more and more practice. So here, we can use MPC and MPS. MPC equals change in C over change in Y. MPS, remember, equals change in S over change in Y. So what information have I provided to you in this question right here? And we're going to assume that MPC is 0.75 and MPS is 0.25 as well. So here, I've given you MPC. I've given you a change in income. So income increases by $100. We're going to notice that positive and negative signs are going to make a difference right here. So all you need to go ahead and do is, we know MPC, substitute this number in, 0.75. We know what change in income is, which is a positive 100, but we don't know what our change in C is, and that's exactly what one of these questions is asking. So how much does our consumption change? How do we solve for this unknown? We just go ahead and multiply. So when we take the MPC times our change in income, in this case, we're going to get the change in consumption. So here, another formula, just using a little bit of algebraic manipulation, MPC times the change in income will give us the change in consumption. So 0.75 times 100 will give us the change in C, which is $75. So if I give you $100, you're going to go ahead and consume $75 out of that $100. Same thing for savings. How much does our savings change? We know change in S. We don't know change in S, but we know MPS and we know change in Y. MPS is 0.25. We're trying to solve for the change in S, and we know that the change in income is equal to 100. Once again, MPS times the change in S. Sorry, I need to change this up. So not change in S, but change in Y. So MPS times the change in Y will give us the change in S right here. So once again, just using these equations, algebraically manipulating them just a little bit to solve for our particular unknown. Here, 0.25 times 100 will give us $25. So out of that same $100, you are now going to save $25 there. So here, these equations that we have underlined with that is exactly the same as the equations that were provided to you on the slide, but just algebraically manipulating a little bit to solve for our particular unknowns. So get a lot of practice using these marginal measures. We will use them a little bit more than our average measures, so do keep in mind about the interpretation and the calculations of it. So I'll see you guys in the next video.